Okay. We have a jar of pennies and a jar of quarters. They have a certain value. So if we're talking about what is the total value going to be here, okay, $4.35, we need to multiply the number of pennies by their value. So we can say P, the pennies, are worth $0.01, 0.01 for each penny, and add to that 0.25, that's the value of each quarter, times the number of quarters that you get. And that will equal the total amount of money that you get, $4.35. Okay, and then the question becomes, what's the other equation? Well, the other equation is just how many there are. There is a certain number of pennies, P number of pennies, plus Q number of quarters, and we know that the total number of coins when you add them together is 15, so that becomes the solution. Okay. Now, if you were to solve this, we would, let's say, solve for one of the variables, and I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to just say this leads to, if we were to subtract, let's say, Q from both sides, we get P is equal to 15 minus the number of quarters will give you the number of pennies you got. Okay, so then we can substitute in. So now we say 0.01p plus 0.25. Sorry, I'm having a hard time writing with this pen. It's not cooperating. Okay, 0.25 Q equals 4.35, and substituting in, we get 0.01p, I'm sorry, 0.01 parentheses 15 minus Q plus 0.25 Q equals 4.35. Okay, I'm going to do these calculations off screen and then okay, so I'm just going to talk you through this. We wrote the two equations. This, let me talk through it again. Each penny is $0.01, and each quarter is $0.25. So we say the value of the coin times the number of coins for P and for Q will give us a total of $4.35. And then P plus Q is 15 because that's how many coins there are. Total is 15. And I've solved this one for P, 15 minus Q. Okay, so what do? I take the first equation, 0.01p plus 0.25q equals 4.35, and I substitute P with what it's worth, 15 minus Q, from the other equation. And then distribute through. 0.01 times 15 is 0.15. 0.01 times negative Q is 0.01Q minus 0.01Q. And then this is 0.25Q equals 4.35. You can see how being comfortable with decimals is really key here. So sorry for that jump. It's been hard for me to zoom back in and out. It's moving things around weirdly. Anyway, so let's keep going. So when we then combine like terms, negative 0.01Q plus 0.25Q is 0.24Q. Okay, I'm going to subtract this 0.15 from both sides, and I get 0.24Q equals 4.20. And of course, the coefficient is 0.24, so I divide both sides by 0.24, and I got Q equals 17.5. Now, if I plug that into P plus Q equals 15, I find out P equals negative 2.5. Let's talk about this, because we wrote the equations, we solved them, and then the question is asking, what about this solution? What do you think in terms of, what does it mean in terms of the solution? Well, this is what it means. If you wanted to get $4.35 using quarters and pennies, 15 of them total, you would need to have 17.5 quarters. Can you have 0.5 of a quarter? No, you have to have a whole number of quarters, so that doesn't make sense. Also, we would need to also have negative 2.5 pennies. Does that make any sense? Sure doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to have a negative number of pennies. You either have 0 or more. So what this solution says is basically we can write the equations, we can solve them, but the solution actually isn't possible. It isn't possible to have 15 coins of pennies and quarters equaling $4.35, because in order to do that, you would need to have a decimal number of quarters and a negative number of pennies. Doesn't make any sense. Okay? So if we were to zoom out and look at what the original question is asking, sorry about that. Oh my gosh, you can see what the problem is that I'm having here. Okay? So write and solve a system of equations. We did that, and the system of equations is there in black at the top. And is our solution reasonable in terms of the original problem? And I'm going to type it out here. So then I'm saying the solution is not reasonable since you must have a whole positive number of each coin. 17.5 quarters is not possible, and negative 2.5 pennies is not possible. So there is no viable solution to this problem.